so we did a survey of like marketing programs and asked people, what are you starting, continuing, and stopping? So I want to get Matt's impression. I'm going to throw these out, Judd. You ready?
Go for it, man. We're jumping right in. That's how we do.
Okay, here you're going to answer this, Matt, in terms of advice you would give to the market.
Yeah.
Ready?
Yes.
Content syndication, just general, not account-based, targeted.
I would divest.
Okay, you added a new category. That's perfect, though. That's a good one. But you wouldn't give it up? You would just wait. Divest means you're out.
I would. Yes, I would come out of it right now.
All right, my buddy John Steiner at Tech Target will probably be a guest soon to come and refute you. I like that.
Yeah, I mean, at Tech Target, I would triple down. No, I'm just.
Well, no, but Tech Target in the verticals that they're really good at, they do. There are.
Oh, I agree with that. I agree with that.
And here's the thing, though, and I'm going to give a caveat, because whenever people bring up like this or that, normally there's not enough information for you to really say, because if you're running an inbound, that might be a great play for you, right? I mean, if you're an outbound machine,
yeah, and it also it depends upon the maturity of the market that you're in. It depends upon the awareness of your brand. It also depends upon what metric you're actually trying to alter, right? So if you're just trying to, like, if you're on the hook for getting a lot of leads, it's a great way to ensure that like some portion of your lead quota is met. But I think in terms of is it a good source of sales ready leads? No, definitely not.
Yeah. Okay. By the way, that was the number one program that's stopped, and it was 2x any of the other stops.
Yeah.
Second, in the stops was social other paid. So not LinkedIn.
Yep.
Do you do paid social? Well, what would you say on paid social? What's your?
Well, I mean, we can open a can of worms on LinkedIn paid social.
Hold that one. That I know there's a can of worms there.
Yeah. So LinkedIn is it's definitely something that we'll continue to invest in. We can go 2 or 3 clicks deeper on that. I think the other social channels are outside of like Meta, I think very challenging. I think Meta in general can be great for a brand, depending upon who the personas that you're targeting and the ICP that you have, just because it does allow you to get very specific. And the thing about LinkedIn is like it lets you get really, really targeted, but it does fall apart a little bit, and we can talk about that.
Okay, I'll add that next. All right, so that's the second one. Third one is ready. Judd and Matt have to podcasts. So we had, but this one evened out because there was a bunch of podcast starts too. And most people are continuing, but there were some folks that were stopping it. I can see why someone would stop it, because there's an execution thing. Like, like the Ringmaster guys, they're so pro. Like if you would want to do it with someone like Ringmaster, right? Who could go and make sure, But like if you just throw you podcasts and Casey from Ringmaster says all the time, it's not if you build it, they will come. No, not even close. But anyway, what are your thoughts on podcasts, Matt and Judd?
I got some thoughts, but
as a consumer of them, I think that they are great. But I will say in general, like I don't consume all that much B2B podcasts. I consume a lot of sports and pop culture because that's what I find to be entertaining. Every now and then I'll click into very specific business related podcasts if they have a good guest or if the host of that podcast is somebody that I admire, I have a ton of respect for. But generally speaking, my podcast consumption is about 95% not business related and probably 5% business related. I think in general, execution that I've seen from brands that do podcasts is rather terrible because it becomes very, very self-serving. It is like sort of a good way to get some of your customers onto a podcast and they feel good about it. But I think in terms of like just the quality, I listen to these things, or I just see them and they're like over an hour long. I'm like, I'm out. There's no way I'm dedicating an hour of my life to this.
And I'm going to double click on it. I normally do not like podcasts. I find them to be normally boring and repetitive. They bring on the same people, have the same conversation, and you tune in because you have the respect for the people that you want to hear from.
Sure.
The ones that I tend to be okay with or listen, and the ones that I find work even for a brand, are the ones that are engaging and interesting. So, the edutainment kind of like flow that, we're talking about, right? It's like, I want to be a part of a conversation. I don't just want to listen to somebody berate somebody with questions, or I want to laugh every so often, be entertained, but also be like, oh, that was good. Right.
Yeah.
So I think as a channel, yes, I like it. I think people are looking for an entertainment, educational component, but I don't think many people do it well. And I don't think many people do it right.
Yeah.
Okay. That's exactly right. But people do have, people do have their preferences, but yeah, like it's hard because when we look at channels, it's like, there's like, I used to sell content syndication, and I knew full well by talking to the client, whether they would make it work or not.
Sure.
Yep.
So those were the stops, just the top three, because I want to go back to some, but let me give you the one marketing programs that are starting in H2. I think this is really interesting. I can't wait for your guys on this one. The number one start, okay, is direct mail.
Yeah.
Yep.
Think about that for a sec. That's a pretty good endorsement for direct mail. Everyone's cutting budget. That one seems to have money attached to it, right? And the most interesting thing for me on direct mail is it rarely yields the one-to-one result. Like, it makes everything else better, but it doesn't necessarily, like, you don't send someone a squeegee ball or whatever those things are called, and they go, oh my God, I'm going to go take a demo, right? Like the squeegee ball with the SDR call, with the targeted advertising, that works. So think about that. That's crazy considering the CFO has her hands on everything now. Direct mail costs money, and it makes other things work yet. And it's doing well. Everyone's keeping it, and more people are starting it. So go.
Let me jump in on this one, because I've been calling direct mail as working again for a long time now, probably for the last 6 months. What's old is new, as I like to say. Part of it, cost has come down dramatically, right? There's new technology that allows you to print one-offs. You could do, 1,000-piece run and have 15 different versions, and it's cost effective, which it was not for a very long time. So now with the cost down, making everything work better, and people paying attention again, that's my number one start too. Matt?
I mean, I like it, and I have been successful using direct mail as a part of my marketing mix for a long time. I will say that previous to where I work currently, I was selling into the DevOps space, and it wasn't even a consideration there, just because like there was no way you were going to be able to direct mail these people. And quite honestly, it was a bottoms up approach, and just like it was very hard to justify the spend for it. So that didn't work. I would say what I'm starting to see as like a driver here at my own business around direct mail, and it's a little bit of a crawl, walk, run, is, we just need to do a better job with our customers, especially customers that are doing great things for us, like advocating for us on G2, closing as new customers. And so setting up some automation around that is part of one of our quarterly initiatives. We have a technology for it. We're just not utilizing it yet. But I think as part of an account-based motion, which, we have a perspective on having an account-based motion, but we don't have the infrastructure yet for it to go live. I think it's really hard to run successful ABM without a direct mail piece. I just do.
What do you think about direct mail in PLG?
It's a good question. I think the challenge with PLG, and you're starting to see a lot of conversation around like metrics of PLG on LinkedIn, which I think is fascinating, because for a long time people were saying PLG is the new sort of GTM du jour. But there's not a lot of good thought leadership around how do I quantify what success looks like, how many people need to sign up in order to get a customer, et cetera, et cetera. What I would say is we're still in, not necessarily the dark ages of PLG, but we're in the early stages of PLG in terms of having an understanding around when a motion like that would be meaningful and useful. And there is a whole sector of what I believe MarTech is going to become over the course of the next 10 years. That is not, it doesn't have, it hasn't reached enough density in the market yet for people to understand when a motion like direct mail for PLG would work appropriately. And to me, that moment is either there's enough product usage that it would trigger that, there's enough users within a single organization that it would trigger that. Then the challenges around that is, well, you've got 10 users at Adobe who are utilizing your PLG product. Which one do you send it to? Who is really driving it? Is it a top-down initiative to bring in something like this, or is it a bottoms-up where there's a bunch of people who are like, hey, this technology rocks, and so one of those core people is actually an influencer? Certainly you can see if your product has the capability to add people, you can see the person who's adding the most people, and that would be the natural choice there. But there are considerations for how you would do PLG that I think are unexplored.
Oh yeah, I agree with that. So then, so SDRs though, have you seen, I've heard really good things about direct mail in helping SDRs connect rates.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
I think that's actually what we're talking about here too, at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Because like an ABM thing where we're throwing the multiple channels at them to get the connect is what, I mean, essentially nobody wants to admit that, but that's literally what we're doing.
I just think these things in a vacuum don't hold as much weight as when they're put together properly. I mean, totally. You have direct mail, you have SDR. The SDR touch is based on a score or however you've moved them through your funnel. And if you try to do one or the other alone, the effect is minimal. So, I mean, look, marketing, sales, go to market, it's all a cumulative approach anyway.
Yeah.
Right.
So, look, what product you sell, who your target audience is. I mean, all of these channels can work. It's understanding, will it work for what you need and the people, the set that you need. So,
yeah. I think if you get in the DeLorean, gun it to 88 and rewind to when like Chris and Braden were starting Sendoso, the earliest inception of the idea of Sendoso was probably the brightest one that existed, which is like, hey, I'm going to send you a $5 Starbucks gift card because we're going to be in a meeting in an hour and I want to make sure that you're caffeinated for it. And the far-flung use cases that have been generated from direct mail, and even though that was digital direct mail, but direct mail have like, in a weird way, almost cratered that market under the weight of what people tried to do with it, which is people went and spent a fortune to try to make it such an anchor piece of their go-to-market. And the reality is it just works great to for an SDR to get a meeting. It works great for an account executive to make sure that the attendee actually comes to the meeting. It works great as a little thank you note after the fact or as somebody becomes a customer. But I think people conflated the success of that with this is actually something that could drive pipeline as a standalone channel.
Yeah.
And I think Craig said everything that Judd and I have just spent the last 5 minutes pontificating on in his first statement, which is it's not a one-to-one, it makes everything better.
Yeah. I got a couple for you and then we'll go. So one is, so Gainsight, they used to, early days, they would find out when the executive team was having their meeting, whether it was a Monday meeting, a forecast meeting, and they'd send donuts. Small thing,
Totally.
make a difference. The best one though I ever heard, I was telling a client that story. I think this was a guy named Mike Smith, who's like
sounds like a made-up name.
That was a fake name. They have 50 years
Gonzo.
in a row, and he used to have the bacon play. And so what they do is literally the sales reps had a button in Salesforce, and if they hadn't heard from a buyer, so we're talking like down the line, waiting to get the deal done end of quarter, they would press a button and they'd send them a pound of bacon. And he's like, it would work like a charm. These guys wouldn't get back to you, then you send the bacon. I will follow that. So listen, I had him return a call. He's a buddy of mine. He was trying to get to me, similar idea. And I wasn't returning his calls. I meant to, by the way. I took a picture of how I had it written down and sent it to him, but he knew that I like Good Company in Houston, and he sent me a brisket. Okay. And I called him 20 minutes later.
Someone sends me a brisket, I'm calling him too. Everybody, just send me a brisket.
So we're all gonna get briskets.
Although I will say, we now need to make shirts, just called "The Power of Bacon."
Yeah, well, we can do that. I'm pretty sure there is one.
Yeah, I mean,
Then we just got to go get them.
I think I've seen Matt wear it. By the way, I've been broiling bacon lately. It's amazing. Instead of frying
yeah, it's incredible. Both crunchy and chewy. It's
all at the same time.
Crunchy, chewy, and you don't lose half the bacon.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's amazing. Okay, all right. So that was incredible.
Yeah, I just want to add on one bit of color. Craig and I, you have known each other for a long time. For a long time, my LinkedIn headline was "We'll take meetings for cupcakes," and people used to send me cupcakes all the time. Now, back then I was I didn't look the same as I do now, and I would tell people, "Oh yeah, I'm giving them to my my staff. I was giving them all myself." So, but like, I think it's those little touches that go a long way. And if you can sort of pick up the signal of what someone likes, or if you can find, based upon the persona that you serve, something common that you can send out to people and it scales, there's something magic about that.
Yeah.
There's one other side though. Like, we keep talking about like the mass way of doing things. I still think that hyper personalized touch, it wins every time. And I've watched, it's experience, not tchotchke. Right. If I know you play guitars and you're a big potential customer, and suddenly a custom guitar with your name on it shows up at your house, I guarantee you're getting on a call.
Sure.
Now, I'm not saying I'm going to send you a guitar, but
hey, wait a minute. You opened that Pandora's box.
I actually know one of the companies, they were trying to create a partnership. They knew the CEO played. They sent him a custom guitar. He called them immediately, and they did close the deal.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's an investment. I love it. By the way, I'm going to change mine to I work for Fender Stratocasters, and then people just send them to me. Fun fact, I did play the guitar in middle school because I was old. It was like hair rock or whatever you want to call it was like totally in. And I used to love Judas Priest, Breaking the Law. That guitar, that KK Downing, that guitar. I used to play that all the time, and that's the only thing I could play. But I looked really cool. All right. So
we need pictures.
Thanks for tuning in to GTM Unfiltered. To hear our innovative insights and strategies, visit gtmunfiltered.com. Be sure to subscribe and leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. Until next time.